So be careful, little mouth, what you say.
Get! Fuck! What? Let me go! God fucking damn it. Fucking music cues. What's the game? Fucking heart attack. God fucking damn it.
So recently Outlast 2 came out, and I had a great time playing it in one sitting. I thought that this game was really ambitious, but at the same time I was left with the impression that in some aspects it just wasn't as powerful or as nerve-wracking as the original Outlast. After thinking about it for a while, I think that there's 3 key points that explain why, and I'm gonna go over them in this video. And let's start with the drive. What drives the main character? As a player, what is our motivation to continue? In Outlast, the drive is very simple. You've gotten yourself into a godforsaken hellhole and you just have to escape. You spend all your time trying to get out of the building, and then when you actually do, you almost wish you were back inside because it's terrifying. The drive of trying to escape is extremely powerful, and it's one that pretty much everyone can relate to. In Outlast 2, however, our drive is not to escape, but instead to deliberately get deeper and deeper into this fucking awful place. And why? Because we want to rescue Lynn, the character's girlfriend. And this already presents a problem, because the player hasn't really been given much time to love and care about Lynn. We just care that the main character, Blake, cares about Lynn, and this tiny suspension of disbelief already makes the immersion a little bit harder to achieve. Outlast 1 kept the things really simple, and in my opinion, that made it more powerful. Outlast 2, on the other hand, made this a little bit more complex. As the story progresses, you realize that it's not just Lynn that we're trying to save. Blake is also trying to subconsciously save Jessica, a childhood friend of his that apparently was involved in some sort of tragedy. This is apparent from pretty much the very beginning. And in my opinion, it's like a missed opportunity. Even if you don't know what is going to happen with Jessica or with Lynn, it's very clear that Blake just has this I have to save everyone mentality, and in that regard the story doesn't really surprise you at all. Compare that to James from Silent Hill 2, for example. For pretty much the entire game, you think that you know how James feels about his wife, but then in the end there's this big revelation and you find out that their relationship wasn't so simple at all, that there was this great conflict that really changes everything. Suddenly you start perceiving the character in a different light, and you understand why James did all the things he did and why he felt so guilty. But there's no such revelation in Outlast 2. From start to finish, Blake's motivations are very clear, and all the new information that we get along the way doesn't really change how we perceive the characters in any meaningful way.
I don't want our baby to die here.
I won't. I won't let them kill you.
In very simple terms, a Deus Ex Machina is a plot device where this very complicated situation is solved by a random event that happens out of nowhere. Just like most games, Outlast 1 had a few moments like this, where it seemed like you were just about to die, but then something happened that saved the day all of a sudden. Outlast 2, however, made the mistake of doing this all the time. Too often, the game put you in these impossible situations, only to save you from them immediately afterwards. Escaping this dangerous situation by the skin of your teeth, it can be very exciting, but if it's scripted and it keeps happening all the time for no apparent reason, then there's no tension whatsoever anymore. Again, going back to Outlast 1, if a villain got you, you just knew you were fucked. Best case scenario, you had your fingers cut. Worst case scenario, they tried to cut your dick. There's even a time when the main character injures himself while trying to escape, and then immediately after that, you start limping when you try to run. Now compare that to Outlast 2, where you get nailed to a cross, can get off of it by yourself without much trouble, and then it only takes a couple bandages to patch yourself up. At some point, the encounters with the enemies became less scary because I realized that there weren't really that many consequences for them. For the sake of comparison, let's watch this short clip of me playing Soma, another horror game.
God help me! Put this fucking thing in place! Oh god!
Down. Up. Quick. Open up. Open up. No, no, no. Quick. Quick. Yeah. Oh god. Oh god. No! Jesus. As you could see, I was scared shitless during that part. And you know why? Because the game didn't hold my hand. I felt the pressure of knowing that it was me who was in control, that if I died, it would be my fault. And I feel that Outlast 2 just needed more moments like this. My favorite part of any good story is that moment when every little piece of the puzzle you've collected so far finally fits in and you understand the bigger picture. In the original Outlast, we learned that the Murder Corporation has been doing these really shady experiments, and at the end of the game we get to see them with our own eyes and finally understand what was happening behind the scenes. Resident Evil 7 is another example of a very clear connection, where you even get to see an imaginary flashback that explains that all the bad guys that you've been fighting so far weren't really bad at all. Depending on how much attention you paid, you could figure out the game's secret before it actually shows you. Just look at my reaction when I finally connected the dots myself.
E001. What? That's what I remembered it from. Grandma. Shit. I get it now. She did say she was getting all of... Grandma was Evelyn all along?
To me, that moment was priceless. It took me a while, but I realized what the big secret was. But even if I hadn't, the game would have eventually showed me in this cutscene. This way, by the time the game is over, everyone is on the same page. Resident Evil handled this connection in the best possible way. They gave you many cues to figure it out, but even if you didn't, they didn't completely abandon the plot. And this is the problem with Outlast 2. Outlast 2 also had this very clever twist. As it turns out, the radio relay that Blake spots while he's in the lake was set up by the same Murder Corporation, and that is actually what's causing all the villagers to turn insane. But here's the thing, if you didn't read all of the journals and paid a lot of attention, you wouldn't really know this, because this connection is never exploited or emphasized in any way. To me, this feels like another wasted opportunity. But I wouldn't be surprised if they give out all of these answers in an upcoming DLC. Outlast 2 was a great game, but taking everything I've said into account, there's a few things that I changed to try to make it even better. First of all, instead of just dying right away, the helicopter pilot could have just been badly injured, and Blake and Lynn could have walked together into the town looking for help. This would have given us more time to actually care about her before she's kidnapped. And eventually we would arrive to the chapel expecting to find her there, but we wouldn't, and instead we would learn that she's been taken by the heretics. But at this point, instead of being a whiny idiot, Blake could actually try doing something useful for a change. Just like Miles played along with Father Martin, Blake could actually try to confront Papa Noth and use his delusions to his advantage. Because after all, they're both after Lynn and the baby, so maybe he could persuade him to let him live so that they can work together. And this strange arrangement could make for some very interesting situations that wouldn't require Blake to be as incredibly lucky as he was throughout the game. Val could still make an appearance, but perhaps the fact that she was the leader of the heretics could have been a surprise for later. As for the whole Jessica subplot, my only complaint about it is that it was just too easy to see coming. So perhaps they should have made these events a little bit more unpredictable. What if instead of Jessica being abused, it had been Blake? And somehow they had a confrontation about it, I don't know. I can see this being done in many different ways, but I would just like one that actually surprised me. Also, the whole mine section should have been handled entirely differently. It took a really long time to get to the bottom, and almost no time at all to escape, and I feel that it should have been the other way around. Blake should have been forced in, by the heretics or maybe even by the church followers trying to push him to Gitlin, and the way out should have been a lot more difficult and arduous. And the lake sequence, I would have saved it for this point of the game. How awesome would it be for the two of them to try to escape, get into the radio facility thinking that they will find help there, only for the player to slowly realize that that was the source of everything. These were some really vague, top of my head suggestions, but I would love to know what you think about them, and also what you think about the game, and if you would change something about it too. Making this video took a little bit of work, but I really enjoyed putting it together. And if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I hope I catch you in the next one.